I'm very impressed with his honors career and what he has done to achieve this level of success. But all of that cannot change the fact that the law, that the classification under our jurisprudence requires that there are substantial distinctions. So to create a commission that will protect only a few athletes is a violation of the rights to equal protection of the other athletes, Mr. President. I would like to ask His Honor, how does he address that? Because like I told His Honor, I would like to support this, but I need to hear the explanation so that I can be reasonably convinced that there is no constitutional violation in the law that I will support. I need to understand why there needs to be a separate commission for these two sports, basically boxing and combat sports, when there are so many other sports that are injurious. And before His Honor replies, may I just put in on the record the latest news. This was in the news just the other day. I will flash it on the screen. This is actually also my sport. This is ultra marathon, no? 21 runners died in an ultra marathon over the weekend. So sport ko din ho ito. I joined ultra marathons. Thank God, hindi pa ako nakaranas ng ganyan kasama. Pero nangyayari din po yan at marami din ho tayong ultra runners. Sa ngayon, they are not yet registered as a professional sport in GAB. Pero meron tayong professional ultra runners. In fact, kung magkikwento din ang ating kasamahan tungkol sa experience niya, ako din, nung nag-ultramarathon ako sa Cebu, overnight ang takbuhan namin, it started at 10 p.m. And the first race I joined, I finished before sunrise. Yung mga kasama ko doon, linggo-linggo sumasali ng karerang ganon. So siguro exposed din sila sa mga injury din at bundok-bundok ang inaakyat nila. Sa amin naman is basically in the city. It was Cebu City, Mandawi, etc. So that's one, that's ultramarathon. Recently also, about a month ago, I got a personal message from actually our Miss World, Katrina Rodriguez, who's a friend, telling me of a Siargao-based professional surfer who was injured and purportedly blinded habang nagsusurf siya. So humihingi din ng assistance. Kaya feel ko po, ang ramdam ko talaga yung concern ng ating mahal na senator para sa athletes. Kaya lang gusto ko lang pakita sa kanya na nangyayari din ito sa ibang athletes. Sa ngayon, hindi na ako nagka-update kung na-save ng surgery yung eyesight nitong surfer na to. And then, in my own sport, Mr. President, triathlon, kayo na rin siguro, isang Google nyo lang, makikita nyo, medyo marami din huwang namamatay sa triathlon, no? I can recall at least 4 races that I joined na meron ho talagang, ano ba tawag doon, sinagip na lang sa ilalim ng tubig. Dahil ho natapos na lahat mag-swimming, hindi na ho nakita yung isang swimmer. Hindi na ho siya nakapag-bike and run dahil nalunod na. Dalawa ho ang nasalihan kong karera na may namatay sa swim part. And then, if I may just finish lang the example, just to finish this example, Mr. President. And then, meron din hong namatay on the bike ride and meron din hong namatay on the run. So, yun ho sa triathlon. So, examples lang po yan ng mga sports that are very harmful, well, that can create harm and injury. So, again, I ask the question of His Honor, based on the classification in our jurisprudence on the equal protection of the law, how can His Honor explain the basis for only protecting boxers and combatants?
Thank you, Mr. President. I will explain it properly, Mr. President. If that the basis, Mr. President, of the accident, kahit yung naglalaba, Mr. President, pwede ma-aksidente. Kahit yung nag-aaral, pwede ma-aksidente. If that the basis, Mr. President. But boxing is different. When you prepare, kailangan mag-sparring, mag-training, sakitan, talagang body ang ginagamit. May dugo kaagad, mabiyakan ng dugo. That's different case, different case, Mr. President. Boxing is different, really different. I hope the good lady from Taguig will understand that. If that the case is what you mentioned in examples is kahit yung mga naglalaba, kahit yung mga nagtatanim, nagbubukid, pwedeng madisgrasya if that the basis of the pwede sila danger sila if that's the basis of the good lady from Taguig. What I'm talking about is the sports that directly contact, there's a physical contact na gamit ang even during training. Itong boxing is kakaiba, itong combat sports kakaiba. Dahil sa preparation pa lang, pwede ka nang mamatay. Pwede ka nang kasi talagang sakitan yan. The intention is to hurt your opponent. Ito yung sports na boxing. The intention is to hurt your opponent. Iba ito yung intention ng, for example, biking, running. I'm not insulting biking or running, Mr. President, but I'm just, since you're using an example, may goal na maabutin yung pero itong sakitan intention is to hurt. Itong boxing, the intention is to hurt. Yung iba nga pag patay agad So yan Mr. President, I hope you understand, and we already discussed this conversation and topic, this matter with the minority leader Franklin Drilon before in the 17th Congress, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr.
Thank you, Mr.
President.
President.
Thank you din po. Let me remind His Honor that I was not a member of this Congress last year. So, konting pasensya na lang po. Although I watched the video, it's also my right to ask questions. And I also have a different perspective because, like I said, triathlon, ultramarathon, sports ko din po yun. So, in the same way that His Honor can mention his experience, I also have mine. It is nothing to compare with His Honors. Wala akong yung level ko hindi ko narating ang level nyo, pero meron din tayong experience. And I humbly submit that the distinction that His Honor makes na yung sport ng boxing and combat sports, the intention is to hurt, but the end result is what we are looking at, what you are asking the government to provide. His bill, Your Honor, his bill mandates that there will be funding to support these athletes. So whether intentional yung sport na pinasok nila, intentional na masaktan sila o sila ang manakit, the end result is injury. And I mentioned already that there are so many other sports that result in injury. With all due respect, hindi mo pareho yun sa naglalaba. Yung sumasali ng ultramarathon, pinasok din ho nila yon knowing that may change in climate yung sinasalihan nila. May mainit, may malamig. Nakita ko yung mga picture, yung mga paa din nila, talagang sugat-sugat na. Pwede ho silang ma-frostbite, pwede ho silang maputulan ng daliri. So, meron talagang harm din. I'm just pointing that out. So, but I will leave that because His Honor has made his point, and I humbly am of the opinion that the classification that His Honor is making, separating the boxing and combat sports, is not a classification that stands the test of constitutionality. So may I ask His Honor if it's at the right time, will His Honor agree to a bill that will expand the protection for all athletes whose sport subjects them also to injury and harm?
Yes, Mr. President, if you have amendments, if I agree with your amendments, I can agree with that, Mr. President. No problem with me.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. President. Let me now proceed. His Honor mentioned earlier that may mga kasamahan siyang namatay, and I'm very sorry to hear that. That's why nga I keep on repeating that I support His Honor's desire to protect the athletes, no, who are involved in this kind of sports. I would just like His Honor to expand the coverage of those athletes to include all the other sports. Consistent with our Constitution, which is the protection of life, Article 2, Section 5. Article 2, Section 13, the vital role of the youth in nation building. Article 14, encouraging sports program, league competition, and amateur sports. And then, ang ating ambisyon natin 2040, which embodies the future we want for the Philippines. It includes a long and healthy life, building a high-trust society, and so on and so forth. And then I'll mention Bayanihan to Recover as one, wherein the current policy is to reduce the adverse impact of COVID-19 and enhance the financial stability of the country. And our GAA 2021, which again is meant to be responsive to contain the spread and mitigate the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. So ito talaga yung thrust natin. So my question now to His Honor is this. This is also for the benefit of our colleagues. When we single out two particular sports or a number of sports, boxing and combat sports, to have its own commission. And His Honor has said that the objective is to promote this nationally, no? So that mas marami ang ma-promote itong sport na to within our country. Do we recognize, and His Honor has repeatedly said that this is a dangerous sport. So I ask this in the context of, yes, I know it's His Honor's passion and love. The late Senator Miriam Defensor Santiago asked the following question during the period of interpellation on February 28, 2011 in the 15th Congress. Sabi niya, whether boxing or other sports of the same measure may cause death or grievous injury to a contender would not fall under the category of what poets call as man's inhumanity to man. Tinanong niya yon nung nag-i-interpellate kasi nahihirapan siyang tanggapin that that is a sport because it's injurious nga to man. And kayo na rin ho nagsabi, good sponsor, na the intent is to injure. And then I quote His Honor in an interview where he said, talking about his son, I always encourage them to finish their school and focus on another sport. Actually, I don't allow them to enter boxing, but if it's their dream and passion, then I will support them. I point this out and include the statement of the late Senator Miriam Defensor Santiago because it would appear from the sponsorship speech and the answers of His Honor that we want to really promote boxing in our country. And yet, we know that it is a sport that creates so much injury. And even His Honor would not wish it upon his own child. So I'm a little bit confused. Yes, I agree to protect. Pero yung ipopromote talaga natin siya to be even a bigger sport, parang it's like inviting our children into the lion's den. So may I get His Honor's reaction to this?
I understand, Mr. President, of your explanation. You know, pag sinabi mong Filipino, isa yung boxing ang kinahiligan. Hindi mo pwedeng sabihin, wag kayong boxing. So, second, Mr. President, itong boxing kasi, in combat sports, talagang your intention is to hurt, to pin down your opponent, which is big different to other sports. Kasi ito your intention is to, as much as possible, to pin down your opponent. Hindi naman kill, mayroong namamatay, pero to pin down is to hurt. That's the intention. So, kakaiba itong sport na to. That's why we really need to establish this commission.
Well, again, I post this for the consideration of the body. His Honor very clearly said that the intention of this sport is to hurt. And given that, yes, hindi mapipigilan, pero bakit pa ho kailangan i-promote? Yun lang naman ho ang sa akin as a mother, as an athlete, no? Parang syempre, I would rather
Okay.
veer towards a sport that would create less harm and less injury. Again, I'm just putting that on the record. We can move on to the next point, no? But it's just something that I think we should all think about, because creating a separate commission for this means exactly that, na ito yung sport na ipopromote. Now, speaking of promotion,
Sorry to
yes.
interrupt you.
So let me continue. Speaking of promotion, Mr. President, I'd like to point out that basketball is probably the number one professional sport that we have. I'm looking at Senator Joel, who has had 2 knee surgeries. And remember, I'm glad he pointed it out to me to remember this, because yun nga, it's in the top 10 of that report, basketball. And when I watch it, I don't think their intention is to harm, pero it also happens, no, in your desire to defend, in your desire to attack, nakaka-harm din. So ayan, si Senator Joel is a living example of injured athlete. O pati kayo rin injured? Or so Mesenyas kasi feel free. I think Senator Francis, but let me just put on record this next point I'm trying to make, no? That to my mind, basketball is probably the number one professional sports in our country. 81% of the urban population claim to be basketball fans, with nearly 50% being avid fans. Basketball is also the number one sport in viewership and participation. And yet, wala naman tayong basketball commission. Next, again, it's my sport. Pasensya na, no? Pero marami talaga akong sport. This is my first love talaga. Again, I am nothing like the level of His Honor, pero naging national team din ako ng volleyball. Volleyball has a big following as well. The Mall of Asia Arena, with a seating capacity of up to 20,000, full house yan pag naglalaro ang mga volleyball players, and it now also has TV coverage. And then itong Phil Oil Flying V Center, 1,300 capacity, puno din. So Mr. President, that's volleyball. Wala rin naman volleyball commission. And by the way, in the midst of the pandemic, kudos to GAB, they have successfully registered volleyball as now a professional sport. Okay? I move on. I compare now, and His Honor is very welcome to correct me. It is not, wala talaga ho akong expertise sa boxing. But my understanding is per bout, there are roughly 6 people, 3 on each side of the boxer. Yung kanyang manager and trainer. So 3 times the 2 competitors, 6 yan. And then about 10 bouts per day, so 60. Plus around 27 officials, 87. So if there will be roughly daw mga 50 spectators, maybe even 100, that's barely 200 people all in all. Compare again, Mr. President, to triathlon. In the Ironman 70.3 that I have joined maybe 8 or 9 times, in particular in Cebu, it is so successful, it draws a crowd of 20,000. Families, girlfriends, boyfriends, spectators na nanonood lang kasi gusto nilang makita yung mga triathlon. So ganun ka-high na rin yung level nitong mga sports na to, but there is no separate commission. So yun lang naman ho yung point ko. Hindi naman ako tatayo dito at ipaglaban yung commission ng triathlon, ipaglaban yung commission ng basketball, ng volleyball. And I doubt that our Senate President will also stand up and try to put together a commission for bowling, which he excels in. So yun lang naman din ho yung point na gusto kong i-raise. Kasi kung sa passion lang, talagang wala hong tatalo sa passion nyo sa boxing. Pero marami din ho tayong passionate dito na iba-iba. But protecting our sport may not necessarily need to we don't necessarily have to create a commission to do that. So may I get His Honor's reaction to that, please?
President, unang-una, daming daming ko i-explain. Okay. First, I will say it again. Boxing is difficult sports. Ito ang in combat sports. Talagang ang intention mo ay hurting each other. Maliwanag 'yon, maliwanag na talagang to pin down your opponent hangga't sa matumba, ganyan. Yan yung intention nito. So, pagkakaiba. Second, Mr. President, I'm just saying na ang boxing is one of the favorite sports in the country. Pwedeng pangalawa, pwedeng pangatlo. Of course, ang Pilipino, ang mga kababayan natin mahilig sa basketball. Pero we have to say that anong sport ba lalong nakilala ang ating bansa? Anong sports ba lalong nakilala ang ating bansa kundi sa boxing lang? Kundi sa boxing. Not only boxing but nakilala din sa ibang mga sports, basketball, anything. Kung ano, but the most na nakilala tayo is sa boxing. Sa ayaw sa gusto na tanggapin natin, boxing. At saan ba tayo pwedeng na possible na yung fair ang labanan? Kasi kung basketball, ang tatangkad ng mga kalaban natin, but we do our best. Diba? Saludo ako sa mga players natin. Kahit na matatangkad yung mga kalaban nila, palaban talaga. Kahit magpagbasagan pa ng mukha, no problem. Pero itong boxing kasi kakaiba kasi may timbang, may timbang yung weight mo, pareho kayo. So, di tayo pwede mag-excel the most, no, para makilala ang ating bansa. So, why we don't support that this sports, boxing? Unless kung ipagbawal sa mundo yung boxing na hindi sports yan, talagang patayan yan, o hindi i-recognize na sports yan, hindi, huwag tayo mag-participate since boxing is recognized in the world na sport, then mag-participate tayo dahil dyan tayo pwede makilala. Kaya nandito tayo. Kaya ito yung purpose na mag-create ng Philippine Boxing Commission. Kasi in other countries, there's a boxing commission. Only in the Philippines don't have a boxing commission. Boxing commission is to focus on boxing in combat sport. Yan po yung explanation. I hope the good leader from Taguig will understand that na even in other countries there's a boxing commission. There's a boxing commission, especially in America, Australia, may mga Japan, Korea, Thailand, may mga boxing commission. Kaya nga dito sa atin, i-create natin yung boxing commission dahil diyan tayo na isa sa nakikilala sa buong mundo sa boxing. I hope you understand, Madam Senator. Pasensya ka na kung medyo passionate ako masyado to explain this this sports kasi I've been this sport more than 25 years. So thank you for the knowledge.
Thank you also to the good sponsor for his response. But I don't think he answered my question as to will we now have to put up a commission for all these other sports that are also loved by the Filipinos, and some of them are height intensive like basketball and volleyball, and that's why I personally tried to encourage my daughters to go to a different sport that's not height intensive, which is football. So my daughters are football players. Yan, hindi yan height intensive. Very competitive po tayo dyan. So pareho tayo in thinking when we say that let's focus on sports also that do not have height requirements. Pero my question was, do you have to create a separate commission to promote these sports? That was my question, Mr. President. Kasi sikat na rin itong mga ibang sports na to. There's already a natural growth Does that mean we have to create a separate commission? Is GAB not doing their job? So 2 questions po yun.
Sorry, Mr. President, I'll answer that. Yes, definitely, it's necessary to create a commission. And I'm not underestimating GAB. GAB handled many sports, hindi lang 10. Hindi lang 10 yan. So, hindi makapokus. Itong sports na to kasi talagang katulad ng sinabi ko kanina, direct contact talaga na ang intention is hurting each other. Talagang sakitan sa bawat isa, no? Yun yung ano, kasi kailangan may magtutok talaga ng solo lang, like what I explained, Madam, Mr. President, na even in other country may mga boxing commission sila. They create a boxing commission beside other sports, kasi naintindihan nila kung gaano kahirap yung boxing, gaano kahirap dinadanas ng mga atleta, yung mga boxers and combat sports. So yun po yun. I hope you understand and answer your question.
Mr. President, thank you. When His Honor emphasizes that the difference with boxing is there's an intention to hurt, I also asked this question in the last interpellation na saan ba nagkulang ang GAB para dun sa security ng ating mga boxers. And His Honor basically did not answer the question directly. Wala siyang sinabi na may pagkukulang ang GAB in assisting our athletes to keep safe. No, wala siyang sinagot doon. So again, this is a function of GAB, and later on I will go back to my question na we will be creating a new entity with an initial budget, although His Honor said that depends on DBM, pero yung original estimate niya was 150 million, which is even bigger than the budget of GAB. And yet, we cannot pinpoint kung saan nagkulang ang GAB to protect these boxers and combatants. So,
Mr. President, sorry to
I'd like
interrupt.
to just emphasize that has never been answered kung saan nagkulang ang GAB. Yung bansa natin, kulang ho tayo ng pera. In fact, we are now going to deliberate on the creation of the Department of OFWs. And one of the major what do you call this, objections to the creation of that department is the budget again, no? Kasi it will cost us to create a new department. Pero nobody will say that hindi kinakailangan niya ng milyon-milyong mga OFWs. By the way, I support, no? Kailangan ng milyon-milyong OFWs. So itong boxers natin na kailangan din ng support, bakit hindi natin i-extend yung support sa dami ng athletes? Hindi natin tinatanggal sa boxers, but we are making it inclusive for all the other athletes, Mr. President.
Can I answer to clarify, Mr. President? I will repeat again. I answered this question already, and you ask again. GAB is only a regulatory board, regulation, giving license, supervision. The Philippine boxing that I'm talking about is to develop and improve, and until na mag-retire sila sa pag-boxing nila, hantang sa mag-retire sila, makatanggap sila ng mga benepisyo, pension, makatanggap sila, Mr. President, to ensure na sila ay protected, Mr. President. Now, the question is, kung ginagampanan ba ng GAB, sabihin ko, yes, ginagampanan nila yung iilan lang doon sa mga responsibilidad para sa boxers, yung license. Pero the welfare of the boxers after retirement, they don't care. That's exactly what happened. Magsasalita na ako kasi yan ang totoo. Yan ang totoo. Maraming mga boxer ngayon na baldado, walang pensyon, walang natatanggap, napapabayaan, at sa akin umiiyak at tinutulungan ko. O yan na, para sabihin ko na lahat, para hindi ako, ang daming mga boksingero na dapat may pension sila, nagbigay ng karangalan sa ating bansa, yung GAB walang natanggap, At sana yung binabayad na ilang binabayad sa bawat laban at commission binibigay diyan, walang ano. Magsasalita na ako para ano, like I said na ganyan. Maraming mga boksingero, kahit ipunin ko pa lahat ng boksingero, kaya kong ipunin sila lahat na wala silang pensyon, wala silang tulong na tanggap sa GAB, at nanghingi ng tulong sa akin, lagi kong tinutulungan. Hindi naman lahat, pero yung ilan lang doon. Yun po ang reality noon. Kung para masagot ko yung ano na ginagampanan ng GAB, yes, ginagampanan nila pagbigay ng license, pag-get ng commission nila, yung ano nila, yun, nagagawa nila yon na mag requirements. Pero yung after that, like I said, Mr. President, don't have the GAB is only a regulatory, regulate and supervise, but the welfare of the boxers after that and during his career or after the career, this the purpose of this Philippine Boxing Commission and Combat Sports, Mr. President. That's the exactly the answer of those questions, Mr. President. Para hindi na tayo paano. I would like to apologize also, Mr. President, to the good lady from Taguig na ganito ang boses ko kasi ganyan lang talaga ako, emotional ako because passionate ako to explain this. This is my passion, boxing, my career for more than 25 years. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Miss. Let me just Senator Tolentino would like to be recognized. I have no problem, but may I just respond first to the question, to the statement of His Honor, the sponsor. Mr. President, the good sponsor said that it's the welfare of the boxers that he's concerned with, no, after their career or if their career ends abruptly. Again, I go back to the constitutional requirement of equal protection of the laws. I can also pinpoint many other athletes na natigil yung career dahil nga nagka-injury. Natigil din ang career. So may welfare din tayo, may responsibility din po tayo sa kanila. Plain and simple. We also have a responsibility to these other athletes. And that is why I have a problem with singling out a particular sport. And my question to His Honor is, can His Honor not expand the generosity of his heart to include other athletes?
Mr. President, only the boxing and combat sports, Mr. President, I included because I believe and know the personal knowledge about the dangerous this sports na talagang delikado sa training pa lang buhay na. Kasi ang intention is to hurt your opponent, to hurt each other. Yun po itong sports na to. Kaya kakaiba. Yun po. I hope you understand, Madam.
So I understand His Honor's passion, but His Honor's personal knowledge, with all due respect, is not sufficient to pass a legislation and ignore the data. We need to be data-driven with all due respect, and the data says that there are injuries. Again, Senator Joel himself is a walking example, injured, dalawang tuhod. How can we ignore that? That is my question to the good sponsor. How can the good sponsor choose to turn a blind eye to the other athletes who also get injuries? Hindi ho ba kayo
Madam,
naniniwala na nai-injure din ho sila?
Mr. President, I believe na ma-injury din. Kung yan ang
Mr. Senate President, I think they will not ano eh. Mr. Senate President, can I interject?
Mr. President, kung yan ang
Wait,
pagbabasihan natin.
before we do that, it was Senator Tolentino who was seeking the floor first.
Yeah,
Then we will
okay.
recognize Senator Villar with the
Okay.
permission of Senator CAYETANO and Senator Pacquiao if they will allow.
Yeah.
I will allow, but maybe we can let Senator Pacquiao finish his answer because my question was,
Okay.
hindi ba siya naniniwala na nai-injure din yung ibang athlete at dapat din bigyan ng proteksyon?
All right, go ahead, Senator Pacquiao.
Yes, Mr. President, I will answer that. Iba kasi yung accident doon sa intention, Mr. President. Intentional contact na kailangan mong ma-hurt yung kalaban mo kailan saktan mo yung kalaban mo, yun ang intention nitong sports na ito. Iba yung aksidente. Kasi kung yan ang pagbabasihan natin, Mr. President, kahit tulad ng sinasabi ko, kahit yung naglalaba, pwedeng maaksidente. Kahit yung nagtatanim ng sa nagtatanim sa bukid, may aksidente. Yun po ang pagbabasihan natin, kung yan ang pagbabasihan natin. Pero itong sports na ito, it's kakaiba. Intention mo is to hurt your opponent, to pin down your opponent. Ito yung I hope maliwanag ito. Kasi hindi ko maintindihan eh.
I don't think, Your Honor, with all due respect, that a soccer player, and I have seen so many players walk out of the field with an ACL being carried out in a stretcher. I have also seen the same in basketball players and volleyball players. I do not think that they will take it well that their sport, which they also love, just like His Honor, will be compared to naglalaba, yung injury ng isang naglalaba. With all due respect, hindi ko makita yung similarity nun. But I yield the floor to Senator Tolentino.
Before Tolentino, Mr.
Thank you, Mr.
President,
President. Just
I will answer that before we recognize Senator Tolentino. I just, if you allow me to
Good,
answer.
good. Senator
those
Pacquiao,
last,
good.
Mr. President, the basis of the good leader from Taguig, Mr. President, is the accident. Lahat may aksidente eh. Sabi ko nga, in-example ko na lang yung magtatanim, pwede ma-aksidente. Pwedeng lahat may aksidente, pero itong sinasabi kong sports na ito, hindi, kumbaga intention to hurt your opponent, to pin down your opponent. That's the point. Thank you, Mr. President, and good lady from Taguig.